Hi everyone, welcome back to the Spooky Movie Club. It is week 3 of Summer Horror Month and we watched the 2018 80s suburbia movie Summer of 84. Was it just another 80s throwback movie? Let's discuss. All right, as always, before we get into my 3 things, we have to read the back of the box or the description to kind of get a sense of what the movie was about in case you haven't watched it. I do want to say spoiler warning for this film because it is a newer film and I like this one enough that I don't want to spoil it for anybody in case they haven't seen it because we will get into some nitty-gritty details in my 3 things. So, spoiler warning. I recommend watching the movie before watching this. We're going to read the description off of Google. Teenager Davy Armstrong is a conspiracy theorist who begins to suspect that a neighboring police officer is a serial killer. With help from 3 friends, Davy launches a daring investigation that soon turns dangerous. I love how it's very simple description because that's basically what it is. It's just a group of friends who think that their neighbor is a serial killer and they kind of adventure-esque kind of try to figure out if he really is a serial killer. But yeah, let's get into my 3 things. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that it was based in the 80s, 84, and a lot of the time we're getting a lot of 80s throwback things. I think that's just because the adults now are writing about their past, so you're getting a lot of 80s nostalgia movies. And I think that this film did a really great job of not hitting you over the head with like member berry moments, like, you know, different movies that had come out at that time. Like I don't think they even he references like Steven Spielberg one time, wants to be like a director like Steven Spielberg, but that's like a little slight thing with his dad. But nothing over the top, like their clothes aren't super 80s, they're just very casual 80s clothing. There's not like neon lights and side ponies and Rainbow Brite, and it's very subtle, just like a regular town in the middle of the 80s. They do mention there's like a G.I. Joe reference, but it's not like lots of G.I. Joe figures and something that a ton of kids wouldn't have. It's very well done. I think a lot of the times like Stranger Things really in the first season, and it was fun, but it was just very hit you over the head. Like the kids had like a Thing poster or Evil Dead poster in their room, and it's like those movies kind of flopped during those days, and those kids aren't going to have those movie posters in their room. Or like when they were doing one Halloween and it was like, yeah, Ghostbusters, like remember, like very member-berry Stranger Things is, which that can be fun. But I think that this movie did a great job of just feeling like it was set in the 80s, but the 80s wasn't its own, like the setting wasn't its own character. It didn't take away from the film. It didn't pull you out in any sense, like a period piece almost. It was just like, yes, the film's set in the 80s, which I enjoyed. It was very different from the other things you're seeing where it's just constant, 80s memorabilia and call outs just for the sake of being called out. The second thing I want to talk about is how I love that they revealed the killer literally right within like the first 20 minutes of the film. The description is they think their neighbor is a serial killer, but they're playing manhunt and Davy sees the boy who's on the milk carton in this man's room, and they're like, yeah, that was him. And like you immediately know. And there's some like questioning, like, are these kids for real? Is this really, the second watch around, I don't think I knew, but I think they did a really good job of like, you believe these kids. Like you're like, yeah, that man's the killer. Like I didn't really feel like I was questioning like any moments where it's like, well, could he be the killer? Like they really set it up where they're like, yeah, this man's the killer. Like he's the one. You really have to watch out for him. I thought that was really unique because it was a mystery film, but you're really not discovering who the killer is. It's more like an unfolding of like kids and like a coming of age story almost, more than it is like trying to discover who the killer is. It felt more like an adventure film. Well, first hour and 20 minutes felt like a little adventure, film, like The Goonies almost, or like a Stranger Things. But it reminded me a lot of like The Burbs or Disturbia or Rear Window. It had that whole kind of vibe, but the fact that they reveal the killer right in the beginning, you think would like disinterest you. Like it would be like, oh, like there's no more fun in this, but there's a ton of fun to be had with just like the kids and the characters. And then the third thing, which I'm going to talk about next. All right, and the third thing, I think the biggest thing, probably the thing I love the most about this film, is there is a huge tonal shift in this movie. I mean, and it hits the same from a first time watch to a second time watch. Like I said in my second thing, the first hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes is just kind of like a Goonies-esque film, like mystery, kids trying to like solve a crime. But the moment changes and it switches to become very dark and disturbing when Davy sneaks into the cop's house, Mackie's house, and goes into the bathroom, and you find that child being eaten away by whatever acid he bought at whatever store. And then you see the other kid who they show being kidnapped, and he's locked in the bathroom like, help me. And you're like, oh, like it switches really quickly. And then it kind of gets, like, you kind of think it's, oh, is this the end? Like it got really dark there, like super dark. And then like, oh, we're at the cops, and oh yeah, I'm going home, and my friends, hanging out with me, and we're gonna have a sleepover. And then and then you think, oh, that's going to be the end. Well, it's not the end, because then, Mackie was hiding in the attic and he sneaks down. Now, this is probably my only gripe about this whole thing, is how did he drag two unconscious boys out of the home without anybody hearing? And the one boy is bigger than him. I question that this time, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, he sneaks them onto this like island, and it gets super dark. Everything kind of changes. The mood changes. Mackie has changed. The kids have changed. And Davy and Dale are running from Mackie. And Dale gets caught. And he gets his throat slit. And blood is just... And it's just such a sad... Like, you just feel so sad. And just like... can't describe the feeling. It was just like very like disheartening and very... sad. When the beginning of the movie you're kind of just like, oh yeah, we're having a fun time, like it's like a scary kind of subject matter, but we're still having a good time. And now you're like, I'm not having a good time anymore. I'm very scared and I'm very upset. And he leaves Davy alive to like haunt him, like, I'm coming for you, you'll always be looking over your shoulder. And so the movie like starts off on this like kind of fun-ish note, even though the subject matter is dark. And then it ends on like a very sad moment, and you're kind of left hanging there like, oh, I'm very, what emotion am I feeling right now? I'm very upset. I'm very disturbed, which is just so, I can't remember the last time a movie made me feel that way, at least, where it was just like, you're having a good time, and then a surprising tonal shift. Like the first time I watched it, I was super surprised how quick and how natural it almost kind of felt. And it was shocking and jarring, but in a very interesting way, and a way that I haven't seen a lot done recently. And that was probably my favorite. This is so... You're a big creep. That was my favorite part of the film, the big tonal shift where the kids get murdered on the island. But yeah, okay. And I think that that's probably the best part of this film. All right, so my final thoughts on Summer of '84 is I think that this is probably one of my favorite newer horror films to date. Honestly, as we know, we've almost done 50 spooky movies so far, and all the newer ones haven't hit me as hard as this one hit me. I really enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite newer horror films that has come out, and I think it's definitely worth a watch. If you haven't seen it, rent it immediately, because I think it's definitely worth your time, especially the tonal shift. I have spoiled it for you, but if you've gotten this far and you like to be spoiled, I think it's even now that you know, I think it's worth watching, definitely, because it still kind of holds up the second time you watch it, even though you know kind of what's going to happen at the end. With that being said, I'm going to give Summer of 84 3 Rump Jasons out of 5. And that is because on the second watch, even though it still kind of hit the same, it doesn't hit as hard as a first time watch. If I was watching this for the first time, I think I would have given it 4 out of 5. But with a second time watch, I'm giving it 3 out of 5 because it was a good film. If I was giving half Jasons, it would probably get a 3.5 out of 5. Because it did move, the second time it did move a little slow for me in the beginning, the second time around. But I'm telling you, I definitely think this is one you should watch. All right, I hope you enjoyed watching Summer of 84 for week 3. We're now on to week 4 of Summer Horror Month. And this is kind of another kind of coattails movie of trying to pull in the success of another film. I've never seen this one, but I heard it's kind of absurd. And so the fourth movie we're going to watch for Summer Horror Month is Piranha. This is a Jaws ripoff film, but with piranhas. Honestly, that's all I know about it. I honestly know nothing. I'm just assuming. I know it's a Jaws ripoff film, but I have no idea what it's about other than piranhas are eating people in the water. I think this is going to be a fun one. I think this is going to be a fun, like, oh my God, what am I watching? This is so kind of dumb, kind of fun. So I'm excited. All right, that wraps up for this week's Spooky Movie Club. I hope you enjoyed discussing and watching Summer of 84, and I hope you're excited for Piranha. We're going to pick up live discussions again this week because I'll be back in town. We will be doing the watch party on Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Discord, and the live discussion on Twitch, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you can make those, amazing. I'm going to leave links below. But if you can't, don't worry, because I'll be back here on Sunday with the review. Bye.